Welcome back, folks, to the Mel Wright Real Estate Show. This is episode 137. My co-host, Thomas Nelson, can't be with us, so I've been allowed full access to the toy shop. So whatever happens, it's got nothing to do with Thomas. But no, we've got a great guest. I'm going to butcher his surname, unfortunately. I've got Doren Aldana. Obviously, I've butchered that completely, Doren. Can
pretty
you
close,
pronounce?
pretty close.
Oh, no, so not bad for me. Would you like to introduce
Aldana.
All right. Would you like to introduce yourself quickly to the audience?
Yeah, certainly. First off, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. So I'm a husband. I'm a father of 4. So I'm a certified, bona fide, qualified sucker for punishment. As soon as you hear that, you know that to be true. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. So I've got a couple different businesses, and I love the game of entrepreneurship and taking ideas and turning them into solutions that produce impact and value for clients and profit for myself and my team. And I live in beautiful Canada, British Columbia, a place called Kamloops. Most probably would not know where the heck that is because it's a relatively small town just east of Vancouver in the western part of Canada and British Columbia. And spring is on the precipice right now, and the snow is melting. So I'm excited about a fresh new season. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, and looking forward to talking with you, Jonathan, about the game of building trust through the power of reviews and testimonials.
Yes, that's great, and a very relevant discussion for our audience, which are real estate professionals of all types and sizes. Mm-hmm. So let's start why testimonials in general are important and powerful. Would you like to start off why that is?
Sure, and I think I don't need to belabor this point, Jonathan, much, because we all intuitively know how powerful reviews are, because virtually every week, perhaps on a daily basis, we're leaning on reviews in some form or fashion, whether it be looking for a new restaurant in an area that you're normally not patronizing. You'll go onto Yelp, you'll go onto Google, and you'll see what other people are saying about these restaurants before you partake, because we all know that pioneers get arrows in their backs. We don't want to be one of them. We don't want to be the guinea pig who gets poisoned. So we are trying to mitigate risk, and more as people start to get on the smartphone bandwagon, as the millennials and the Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Zs, who knows what they're called nowadays, are becoming more and more tech savvy, internet savvy, and smartphone savvy. This leaning on reviews is becoming inextricably linked with what it means to navigate through life, whether it be buying something on Amazon and trying to avoid a lemon by looking at the reviews, whether it be looking at reviews on iTunes before we buy a song or an album, whether it be looking at reviews before we book a vacation package or book a room in a hotel or a resort. Everywhere we go, we're looking at reviews, and studies show that consumers trust online reviews. 79% of consumers trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation from a friend or family member. So that's almost 8 out of 10 people, Jonathan, who deem what your customers, your clients, your followers say about you as being just as legit, just as powerful in their decision-making process as a personal recommendation from a friend or family member. And that's precisely why we want to strategically put this on the front burner of priorities and use this to our advantage, because if we don't, our competitors are going to leave us in the dust.
Oh, that's greatly put, actually, Doren. I've had a few agents say to me, though, that when is it the good time to actually ask for a testimonial when you've worked with a client in the process of selling or buying a house?
It's a great question, Jonathan. And frankly, it's kind of like going to the gym. There's never a bad time to exercise unless you're sick. But provided, of course, you're in good working form, there's never a bad time to take care of your body, to eat healthy, to exercise. Same thing here. There's never a bad time per se to ask for a review, but the real question is, when's the best time? And the best time is during the sweet spot called the MMS, the moment of maximum satisfaction. So that's at the point where they're most elated, most jacked and juiced about what you've done for them. So in the real estate game, it's usually after closing. In some cases, it might be after approval. In the mortgage space, after approval might be a good time, but usually it's after closing, after the deal's done, after the transaction is officially complete. If I was in the massage game, giving people massages, it would be after they're in that afterglow bliss experience. Now their body is jelly and jello, and they're just feeling this blissful joy from working out all those kinks. The point I'm making is you got to ask when they're most jacked and juiced about what you did for them. So that's the best time to ask.
Oh, that makes really sense. Got any kind of tips? I also get a lot of agents, they understand Google, but one area that causes a lot of agents frustration is Yelp and how it works. Can you give some idea about how Yelp works and how you should approach getting testimonials specifically on Yelp?
Yeah, well, Yelp is a difficult animal for anyone who's been in the game for any period of time. You've found that to be true. They're the most difficult review site, bar none, by a long shot. They screen reviews very, very diligently, if that's the nice way of saying it. And if you get 10 people giving you a review, you might get 1 or 2 to stick. So they are the bane of most local businesses' existence when it comes to trying to get positive reviews to stick. But the same principle really applies regardless of whether you're trying to get reviews on Yelp, Google, Facebook, Yellow Pages, etc. And that is, you need really a system for getting the review. So we need a system so we're not relying on our own whim, motivation, or memory. Because if it's reliant on us remembering to ask, we don't have a real business. We have a glorified job. Right? We're on the time for money treadmill. And if we don't show up to work, everything falls apart. Ideally, you guys are in business because you want freedom. You want lifestyle. You want prosperity. And you can't have that if everything's just locked up in your head and everything's contingent upon you. Then you have a you-based business as opposed to a systems-based business. And a you-based business enslaves you to the office ball and chain. A systems-based business sets you free. So I'm assuming you guys are listening to this podcast. You're looking for ways to hack the code on creating more freedom and creating a better lifestyle and getting better marketing and having it all be systems-based. And this is certainly no exception. You need a system. Otherwise, it's just going to fall off the wagon the moment you don't feel like it. And that's not a real business.
Oh, that's great. So when it comes to Yelp, have you got any kind of tips about, or is it just a volume game and it's just that Yelp dismisses a higher percentage of testimonials that come through their system? Or is there any kind of tricks and that can increase the percentage that is accepted by Yelp?
Yeah, first time Yelpers, generally their reviews will not stick. So keep that in mind. So generally speaking, I like to get the review first, make sure it's positive first, and then I'll send up I'll tag them as a positive reviewer, and then I'll follow up and say, hey, thank you so much for the review. If you'd be so kind as, if you've already given reviews on Yelp before, if you'd be so kind as to give me a Yelp review, that'd be much appreciated. Now, if you get that review submitted through an online website, for example, there are softwares out there. I own one called the Testimonial we'll be talking about today. There's lots of different softwares out there for automating the whole process of getting and publishing rave reviews for your business. Well, if you have the ask for the Yelp review coming from a URL and it ends up being the same URL, it's called, in SEO terms, they call it a referral URL. Well, Yelp is watching to see if it's the same referral URL for multiple Yelp reviews for your business. And if they see a pattern, they're going to basically say these are all fake reviews and they're going to block them all. So ideally, you want to get the review first, and we'll talk about the most efficient and effective way to do that in a moment. You want to get the review first. Once you know it's positive, you want to tag them in your CRM as a positive reviewer, and then send them a follow-up email and perhaps even a phone call, but certainly an email or a text, asking them now if they've ever given you a Yelp review before, or if they've ever given a Yelp review period before, to review you on Yelp. But it needs to be a separate follow-up process. And now when they click the link from their email, there's no referral URL. So Yelp will see it as legitimate and it's more likely to stick. Does that make sense?
That's great. What I'm getting the picture here is that what you're saying is that to be effective on Yelp is you're going to have to go through a few more steps. But what I also think you're saying is it's one of the more powerful testimonial platforms. So I get the feeling you're saying there is a bit more work involved. Maybe you should check out to see if the person that you're asking the testimonial from already has a Yelp account, and then make this personal outreach to them. But you also seem to be saying that it's well worth the effort as well.
And not just that they have an account, but that they've given a review for another business before. You don't want to be the first review or it won't stick.
Right. But you feel that all these steps are worthwhile because of the power of Yelp?
Well, Yelp drives Bing. So if anyone is using Bing as a search engine and they're searching for a local business, the very first thing that's going to come up is Yelp on the search listings, because Yelp drives Bing. And so it's really, really important if you want to dominate on Bing, that you have a dominant position and reputation on Yelp. Furthermore, Siri is also linked to Yelp. So if you do, you grab your smartphone, you go best restaurants in Kamloops, it's going to pull up all the records that are linked to Yelp on your smartphone using Siri. So again, keep that in mind. And Bing is a Microsoft product, so that's going to be linked to Google. So if you have an Android, they're using Bing to search. Or of course, if they have a Chrome app, it may be Chrome as well. But you get the idea. It's really, really important to be using both Yelp as well as Google for your review reputation management. You don't want to just rely on Yelp, because most people use Google when they're doing a local search. So frankly, Google is the 8,000-pound gorilla in the space that you really want to focus on. Then Yelp, then any other niche-specific review sites. Like in the real estate game, Zillow is a really important one. Facebook, your own Facebook business page, there's a review section on that. So getting reviews on Facebook, Yellow Pages, Yelp, but the big three in real estate, especially for example, realtors, would be Google, Yelp, Zillow. Those are the big three.
Definitely. Before we go into our break, I also want, and then we're going to be talking about your own platform. I want to ask about Google. Obviously Google has their own testimonial. How, in local search, how important is it? Are the two linked together? And if they are, is it really important to get a lot of testimonials through Google? And will that help with when people search where you show up more in local search?
Absolutely. In fact, I have one client in mind, just as a simple case in point. When he came to us initially, he was nowhere to be found on the local search, and he was basically in the bowels of cyberspace. No one could find him. And then we uploaded his client database. I think he had about 200, 300, 400 past clients. We got him dozens and dozens of 5-star reviews almost overnight, and a good number of those stuck on Google. So he went from like 5 Google reviews to now he's got over 50. Now he's in the dominant spot on the 3-pack. For the uninitiated, that's SEO language for being one of the 3 local businesses listed in the top 3 listings on the map. When you do a local search, you'll see that box with the map, and then there's 3 companies listed. That's the 3-pack. He is now in the 3-pack. He's got over 50 5-star reviews. His closest competitor, I think, has 4. And you can imagine he is in a very dominant position now anyone in his market who is searching for a reputable mortgage professional is seeing him at the top. He's closing 2 to 4 deals a month at an average of 2 or 3 G's of pop and commissions just from his dominant position on Google. Do the math on that. Just think about how valuable that would be to you in your local market when you dominate your local Google listing. And that's really the power of reviews, because these reviews are all linked to your Google My Business account. And so they're going to give preferential treatment to your Google My Business account, and they're going to give preferential treatment to Google reviews because it's all owned by Google. So if you want to dominate the 8,000-pound gorilla, you need a whole whack more Google reviews. That's the big idea.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I've got a couple more questions about that, but we're going to go for our break first, folks. And we'll be back in a few moments with Doren, and we'll be discussing this fascinating area of getting testimonials and the real power of referral power online. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. Got a fantastic guest here, so knowledgeable. And I just feel that we've just touched this whole area, but we will be plowing through the questions, folks. So, you mentioned, which was a fantastic case study, this mortgage professional that you've been helping, but you said you uploaded, 300. How do you approach people that know you, but but you're touching them on kind of slightly en masse? You're asking for this testimonial, and it's outside, this, as we mentioned in the first half of the show, this really juicy part of the sales or buying process, that you're outside of that now. So is there a different way of approaching these people to get these testimonials that you're looking for?
Well, you could certainly ask for reviews from people who know you, like you, and trust you: friends, family, associates, colleagues, referral partners. Obviously that would be more of a character reference because they haven't necessarily partaken in your product or service. But, there's no hurt in asking. The more reviews, the more 5-star reviews, the better. The most potent and powerful and persuasive, obviously, are going to be people who have actually done business with you as a client or customer. So I always like to start there. If you have a backlog of past clients and you have not had an effective system to ask them for the review, it's never too late. I mean, I've had people who literally had clients in their database that they hadn't talked to in years. Like, we're talking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And they uploaded them into the Testimonial engine, and they got an avalanche of 5-star reviews almost overnight. Now, I can't promise you that would be the case for you because, typically our system generates 20 to 40% conversion on these past customers into 5-star reviews. Unless you suck, then obviously there's not much we can do to help you. But typically the response is pretty awesome. And the cool thing about this is not only did he get an avalanche of 5-star reviews, he got a bunch of additional transactions just because people were touched by him and reminded that he exists, and also reminded of how awesome he was when they did work with him in the past. He got 4 additional transactions just as the hidden benefit of asking for reviews. How awesome is that?
It's amazing. It's just amazing, isn't it? So let's go on to your own product and service that really helps in this whole area in a powerful way. Mm-hmm. So that's MyTestimonialEngine. Why did you start it, and can you explain some key parts of it?
Yeah, actually, I started out, you guys probably noticed I'm talking about different case studies that are linked to the real estate game in general and mortgage professionals in particular, because I started my coaching company in 2003 as a generalist, just as a Joe Schmo life coach. And then I had a client who did really well with me, who was a mortgage professional. And that kind of guided me into a niche, working specifically with mortgage professionals. And so I launched that website called mortgagemarketingcoach.com to help mortgage professionals grow their business with effective marketing. Well, we were plugging away with that for many a year. And then, of course, Google shifted gears on how they were serving up results for local queries like best pizza shop, best real estate agent, best mortgage professional, best dentist. And now all of a sudden it was showing up on this Google map. And now all of a sudden getting reviews on your Google profile was becoming not just an option, but mission critical. And I started to get clients asking me, so how do I get more reviews? How do I get more testimonials? How do I use them once I get them? And at first I didn't really have much of a solution. So I dug some more. I tinkered around with different options. And eventually, just by sheer persistence beating resistance, we uncovered the necessity to have software automate the process. And that's where I actually launched with my partner back in 2014, True Trust Marketing, which is the home of the Testimonial Engine. And so now we have this automated shortcut, ultimate easy button to be able to not just get more 5-star reviews, but get them on key strategic review sites and automate the whole process. So it's been a labor of love for the last 4 years, and it's just we're just getting warmed up.
Yeah, it looks like a fantastic product. What are some of the key things have you learned through the process of developing this?
Well, to whom much is given, much is required. Anytime you launch a business, reminds me of Richard Branson, the billionaire serial entrepreneur, owner of the Virgin brand. He said, starting a business and building a business is an adventure in problem solving. So this is certainly no exception. It's been an adventure in problem solving. But I didn't realize when I started how much, not just the importance of reviews is a key part of any marketing plan, but how the trajectory of our culture is becoming more and more saturated and inextricably linked with the necessity to use reviews when patronizing businesses, because we all hate buying a lemon. We hate buyer's remorse. And all the search engines are catching on with this. All the review sites, Zillow, Yelp, Yellow Pages, Better Business Bureau, everything, Amazon, everything's moving towards social media and reviews. And so I knew it was big. I just didn't know how big.
Well, that's great. I think the other area is Zillow, because I think a lot of agents, obviously Zillow is a very controversial platform in the real estate industry. I'm a little bit neutral. I accept what it is and what it wants to achieve, because it is what it is. But a lot of agents, they get very negative about it. But what they don't realise is Zillow offers a lot for free if you're prepared to fill in your profile and get these testimonials on Zillow. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, it's good to have dominance on Zillow. It's great to have Zillow reviews, but keep in mind, it's in third place. When you do a local search, typically what you're going to find is that Google comes up first, then Yelp, then Zillow. So it's important, but most real estate professionals put it at a much higher importance than in actuality it is on the local search.
Oh, I think that's a fantastic point. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah, they don't realize how many tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars are leaving on the table because they're neglecting Google. They're neglecting Yelp. In many cases, they don't even have an account. They don't even have a Google My Business account, let alone getting reviews on it. So that's a big eye-opener for a lot of real estate professionals when they realize how much money they're leaving on the table. And I call that positive perturbance. May that be the lava flow under your butt to put this as a top priority in your business. Stop neglecting, stop drifting, and start driving.
Oh, I think that's just a fantastic point. Are there any new kind of areas, website portals, social media areas that are coming up that are also important to have reviews on?
Well, the way to find out is do a local search as if you're a prospective customer or client, and just see what comes up. If you're not located in the area you market, use an incognito window. If you don't know what that is, just Google it or search it on YouTube. They'll explain it. But just find out what your prospective clients or customers would see when they're searching for your category of business. So if you're in real estate, it might be, realtor in your city, real estate agent in your city, real estate in your city, and see what comes up, and you'll see a theme. And you want to look at the top 3 sites that people see, because most people are not going to dig into the bowels of cyberspace when they do their research. They're going to look at the top 3, and that's all they're going to look at. So you want to dominate in the top 3. And when you dominate in the top 3, it's like having a faucet pouring cash in your wallet every single day.
Oh, I think it's just been a fantastic interview. We're going to wrap it up now for the podcast part of the show, folks. But Doren has been gracious to say he will stay on for a little while, and you'll be able to see the continuance of this fascinating discussion on our website with a full set of transcription of the show notes of our interview, and also I think you've got a bit of a special offer for our audience. So basically, how can people find out more about you, what you're up to, and maybe find out a little bit more about this special offer?
Sure. One of the areas, before I share about how you can connect with me, guys, one of the areas that's often overlooked is not just getting more reviews, mitigating negative reviews so they don't tarnish your reputation. So that's one of the things our system does, is quarantine any negative reviews so they don't spew onto your review sites, tarnishing your reputation forever. But also taking the reviews you do have, getting them on key strategic review sites, and then turning those reviews into referrals. Because think about it, folks. Who better to ask for a referral than somebody who just gave you a 5-star review? I mean, that's your raving fan, right? So we want to take those people and we want to turn them into evangelists. One of the best ways to do that is using mail the right way. We're going to tie it into the name of this podcast, Mail Right. And so we came up with a killer way to use direct mail the right way to get you reviews, not just reviews, but more importantly, referrals, by sending out a magic wand letter in the mail with a toy magic wand enclosed. And then they open it up. They have to, because it's lumpy. Their curiosity gets the best of them. And the headline says, I wish, poof, I could have more clients like you. Cheesy, right? But it'll put more cheese in your wallet, so who cares? So I have a client who sent out 50 of these letters. He brought in $18,000 and it cost him $200. How's that for an ROI? Not too shabby, right? So what we want to do is turn reviews into referrals. And one of the ways you can do that is with the magic wand letter. And I put together a really powerful package called the Ultimate Testimonial Toolkit, with swipe and deploy best practices for getting the reviews on key strategic review sites that matter to your business, and turning those reviews into referrals with the magic wand letter. You can get it all 100% free, complimentary, by going to MyTestimonialEngine.com/mailright. There is a disclaimer. I don't have it up there yet. It'll be up in an hour. So go to MyTestimonialEngine.com/mailright in about an hour, and I'll have it live and ready to rock so you can get all that goodness.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And if people want to get hold of you in general, what's the best way?
You can go to MyTestimonialEngine.com. We have a contact us form there, and there's lots of interesting and insightful and helpful articles on our blog. And you can also connect with all of our social media channels there as well.
That's great. And folks, if you want to get a hold of me, it's really easy. Go to the mail-right.com website. There's a ton of information, all the interviews that we've done, plus with full transcriptions and relevant links. Or the other best way is to go to the Mail Right USA Facebook page. All the live interviews are on there, and some more interesting content as well. So thanks, Doren, for being our guest today. It's been a fascinating discussion. We're finishing off with the podcast, but you can watch more of the interview, like I say, on the website or on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week, where we're going to have a fascinating guest that will give you great advice and lead to more leads for you. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye. Well, we're coming back. Continue. I was really fascinated with your last bit. You know, I've been fascinated with the whole interview. Thank you so much, Doren. It's been just fantastic. But I'd like to go through, so when you do get a review, you think, you know, you gave an example, the power following through with direct mail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so direct mail, I'm a big fan of lumpy mail because
Lumpy mail, I love it. Lumpy.
Or others call it 3D mail. The big idea is something that's lumpy that creates this curiosity factor that's insatiable that has to be quenched. And so now they have to break it open to find out what's inside. And so I like lumpy mail that gets people saying, wow, you know, they're shocked. They're full of awe, shock and awe. And it kind of brings a spark of delight or joy or a smirk or a smile. So that's one of the reasons why I like the Magic Wand Letter, because you tie in the lumpiness with a message that gets them feeling warm and fuzzy about you. And just so happens you also give something for the kids to fight over. So everyone wins.
Oh, getting those kids to fight over is so important, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Seeing you got 4, you probably totally understand that, don't you?
I wouldn't have a clue what that's about. All of our kids are very patient and gracious and kind at all times.
Are they? Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right. I'll totally accept it.
While they're sleeping, I should say. While they're sleeping.
So, as it, you know, one of the problems is I just sense with a lot of agents and a lot of people that have small businesses in general, just don't realise the importance of testimonials. A, would you agree with that? And B, has that been one of the main hurdles in building your business with this, is the education of people of the great importance of testimonials?
I don't know. I think most people are pretty intuitive and tuned into the fact that reviews are important. I think they just lack a system to be able to have it be working on autopilot, working while they're not working. So I think most people would agree they're important. They just don't understand how to automate the process. And oftentimes they're going through the self-inflicted drudgery of managing all the minutia themselves and deploying emails manually through their Outlook email client. Every single time they close a transaction, they have to remember to send out that manually deployed email. And they're sending people links directly to their Google or their Yelp or their Zillow account or whatever review sites they want. But they don't realize that they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot if there's any negative Nellies that they weren't aware of that were, you know, biting their proverbial lip because they're just being polite and they're sending their clients directly to Google or Yelp or Zillow or any of these review sites. Well, now all of a sudden you've opened up Pandora's box and you've got this can of worms that's spilled out. And now when they spew their negativity, it's irreversible. You cannot remove that blemish. The only consolation is that you can get an avalanche of 5-star reviews to make up for it if you have the right system to do so. So I think a lot of times they just unwittingly, number one, don't get as many reviews as they'd like because they don't have a system. Number two, they're leaving a lot of money on the table by not getting the right reviews on the right strategic review sites like Google, for example. Another key piece is that they're not screening people first. And that's one of the beautiful things about the testimonial engine is it screens people first to see if they have positive sentiment. If they do, then we ask them to share it on Google, Yelp, Zillow. If it's negative, it quarantines it. It does damage control. It sends them to what I call the damage control page. It acts like a firewall. It empathizes with them. It asks them what went wrong, how can we improve? It elicits feedback so you can improve your policies, your procedure, your systems in the future. And studies show that 7 out of 10 consumers will return to a local business if their concern is resolved quickly. So speed is the name of the game. So you're able to be notified instantly as soon as that complaint comes in by text and email. So you can hopefully turn them around and rectify the situation so you can capture their repeat and referral business for years to come. So we mitigate, if not eliminate, the negative reviews from hitting the web, and we maximize the number of positive reviews that hit the key strategic review sites. And then we automate the follow-up, because if you're a one and done and ask for a review once and only get 10 or 20% to respond, well, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, because if you were to ask another 2 or 3 times, you'd get 20, 30, 40, 50% higher response rate.
I think that's so beautifully put. And I just want to give an example to our watchers, is that I actually bought a new car last week.
Nice.
Well, the process of buying it wasn't so nice, put it that way. I went to my nearest dealer for the particular brand that I was buying, and I had a terrible experience of classic pressurized selling techniques,
right?
Which really, I've been in business for almost all my adult life, and it just doesn't work with me. And B, it doesn't go down. It just doesn't go down. And even I'm older, quite a bit older than a millennial. In some ways, I've got a millennial attitude. I just don't need that. I don't. And then I went to another dealer that's quite not so close, and the experience was, they give me a written quotation, they were professional, they showed me around the car, they said this is the price we can do. I went back, had a little bit of a negotiation with them, they knocked it down a little bit, the deal was done. I gave that one, I went on Google and gave him a 5-star. My local dealer, who's got a number of the most recent reviews that are 1 star, I gave him another 1-star review.
While you're at it, right?
Yeah.
It's a perfect case in point that people love to buy, but they hate to be sold.
Do you think that little story that I've given you is increasingly the reality?
Well, for some businesses that don't have their act together, absolutely. And certainly those negative reviews, if you've torqued someone off and you've not managed proper expectations, or you've given someone a bad experience, they're probably 10, 20 times more likely to give a negative review than the person who had a positive experience is to give you a positive review, just because they're motivated to warn others. Beware, buyer beware. Don't fall into the same trap I did. Whereas if someone had a positive review or a positive experience, they're thinking, yeah, they did what I expected. Great. But they're not very likely to go out on an evangelism crusade and go out there and share it with the world. We have to ask for them. And many times we have to ask multiple times. And it's not because they don't love you that you're not getting reviews. It's because you don't have a proper and effective system to follow up and to shake them off the fence. And that's a big piece of it. People are busy. It's not that they don't love you. It's just that they're busy. And so that's why the fortune is and always will be in the follow-up.
Yeah, I think that's so well put, and it's just true to our nature, is that, when we do get really good service, it's just part of human nature, is that we don't normally shout about it as much as when we get bad service, do we?
Yeah, and another part of it too is retribution, right? We want to get them back, so we're going to get them back through our complaint on the web.
It was only that, actually, in truth, and I've been totally honest there. I'm 6'2", actually, and I'm not going to overemphasize this. I felt a little bit physical threatened. This is ridiculous, but this is the truth. I felt slightly, because he brought in his manager, and they literally were barring the door for me escaping. And I like to say, I'm 6'2", and I kind of literally had to push him away to get out, right?
Crazy.
And I was just thinking of some lady that's like petite, and they've got these 2 big guys not allowing them to get out of the showroom.
So yeah, you're on a benevolent quest to save all those little 4'2" ladies. The horror,
and it was a horror, actually.
So, it comes from both a benevolent quest and in some cases retribution, depending on the person.
It was a mixture of both, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, to be truth. Just to wrap it up, so about your mortgage, your coaching company and your specialisation with mortgage professionals, would you like to go through some of the most common problems you see in that particular area for your clients to achieve success? Are there any areas that kind of link? I know they're all individuals and they have their own set of problems or things they've got to improve upon, but are there any general things that you have observed?
Yeah, well, it certainly would not be isolated to just the mortgage space. I think just in business in general, and I'm a perfect example in that I've failed forward over the last 20 years, 2 decades, doing a lot of stuff wrong. And eventually I've stumbled through a few things that have been game-changing for me. Had I discovered these gems earlier, it would have turned decades into days. It would have alleviated, if not eliminated, all kinds of unnecessary trouble and struggle and self-inflicted torture. So a few key things. I think one of the big things is people don't realize how important it is to work on yourself. My mentor, Jim Roney, said, if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune. And I heard that and I didn't quite understand it. It sounded nice and it sounded robust with wisdom, but I didn't quite understand how to apply that. I said, well, I read some books. I listen to some podcasts. That must be what he's talking about. Well, yeah, that's part of it. But another big part of it is our results in life will rarely exceed the level at which we believe we're capable and worthy of. So if we see ourselves as someone who's capable and worthy of making 50K, no matter how much tactics and strategies and tools you might stuff into your toolbox, if you got a leaky toolbox, you've got a big problem. And so you'll rarely exceed the 50K if that's what you believe you're capable and worthy of. So a big part of the breakthrough for me is realizing that my most important job in my business is conditioning my mindset, expanding my mindset to build total certainty, confidence, and clarity on what I want and seeing myself already having it, experiencing as if I already have it, reveling in the glory of my victory as if I already have it. And I've heard about visualization and affirmations and all that stuff before, and it all sounded kind of nice. But again, it's like, yeah, I got stuff to do, right? So I get caught up in the minutia of working in the business as opposed to working on myself. And that held me back for a long, long time. And then I started to invest big money in coaching. Once I kind of got over a little bit of a hump, I invested in a mentor, which is another big piece. Invest in mentors. Invest in people who have gone the distance before you, who have the scars to prove it and the wisdom to be able to show you the shortest path to the cash, the lowest hanging fruit pathway to your breakthrough, as opposed to trying to figure it out on your own. I tried to do stuff on my own for a long time. And it's cost me so much time, so much frustration, so much spinning of my wheels, so much opportunity. So those would be the big two, I'd say, is number one, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Have a practice every day for planting seeds on the subconscious of your mind of your glorious success achieved. Visualize it, affirm it, condition it so that when you do achieve the victory, it's no big deal. You've been recounting it in your mind thousands, tens of thousands of times. You hear this in victory speeches from champions in all ranks and forms, whether it be Olympic champions, skiing, whether it be gymnastic champions, whether it be MMA, mixed martial arts champions, or boxing champions. What do you hear time and time again? I've seen this moment thousands of times in my mind. Was this a surprise to you, sir? No, I expected this. I've visualized this so many times. I've worked so hard towards this. I've felt this moment so many times. This is no surprise at all. I've felt this and seen this in my mind over and over again. Do you think there's any mystery? Do you think there's any accident connected to visualizing it and materializing it? There's no accident. There's a direct link. So invest in yourself, invest in your dream by conditioning it as if you already have it, and invest in mentors who've gone the distance before you. You do that, it's going to catapult you to absolutely stratospheric levels. And you're going to find that instead of fighting against the winds of resistance, you're going to have the wind in your back, and you're going to be powerful and poised in the face of challenges. And you're going to condition yourself to win no matter what.
Oh, I just thank you so much for sharing that, Doren. That was fantastic. And I think we're going to wrap up the show now, folks. And hopefully Doren, in about 6-7 months, will agree to come back, because I think it's been a fantastic interview, Doren. And I think we've covered a lot of stuff, and hopefully you've enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely. I knew it was going to be fun, and we nailed it. So thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Oh, thanks, folks. So we'll see you next week, where we'll be talking to somebody who's doing something that's really interesting. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye-bye.